Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today what my mission is, I want to get the tie rod swapped out if I can get that done today. But I'm going to start by removing the remnants of this fender because, well, working around this thing, sharp edges and everything else, I don't want to wind up cutting my head off while I'm trying to get this thing fixed. And it looks like most of it is peeled away, but there's a bolt there, one about in there somewhere, one here, and then one down here somewhere along the bottom somewhere. So I have to open the passenger door up, I think, and get that done, which I think I'm going to have to pull some of this fender back out of the way, but we'll find out. Should be fun, should be informative, and hopefully relatively easy. But hey, thanks for being here anyway, and let's dive into this project. So once you find the fasteners, it's actually pretty easy. There's this one here, this one, and then all the way up here at the top. Now there is a cover that goes in here. This cover was lost in the accident. It wasn't there, so that bolt was easy to see. And then, of course, I just put the bolts back in the holes that they came out of. And so, but from there, now we get a really good look at the underside of everything. And I am not sure about that. We may have a bent lower control arm. Now that I can see that, because let me get down in here. You can see where the paint right here is. It's kind of stretched or compressed. And so with it being squished in like that, it tells me that that may be the case. So we'll get it back to ambulatory first and then figure it out from there and see if that is in fact bent or not. I can't tell if that's really oblong or not, that little hole that's there, or if that's the way it's supposed to be. Once I can move it around, we'll put it back up on all fours up in the air, pull the driver's side off and take a peek at that and see if it's actually bent. But yeah, it looks like it feels like that's kind of pooched out a little bit. So if it is, that's the only other major piece. But we'll make sure that that's not bent before we get the alignment done, so that we don't wind up having to do a second alignment because it's bent. But we'll know soon enough. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to pull the cotter pin out of here, knock this thing loose, and then probably shove it back up there and just tie it in, because I'm going to have to cut this off right here in order to get the tool over the end of that. And once I cut it off, I'll pull the little clamps there, get the boot off, hopefully, and then get the old tie rod out. But I did go buy a tool for that, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I pulled the cotter pin out. That was pretty simple. Tossed it out there. This nut is the castle nut's a 17 millimeter. Came off just fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little hammer and I'm going to smack right here. Nope. Usually if you smack it right in there, it'll knock this whole thing loose, and so then the control arm will just drop right out, or the tie rod end will drop right out. But I'm going to need two hands. Be right back. Okay, so took a couple of decent whacks. That was about it. It knocked it loose. Take the castle nut off. And there we go. That is that. So that's out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab one of the angle grinders, cut this off right here, and then pull those off. That way I can get that piece out of there. However, it's starting to get a little bit later than I'd anticipated, and so this is probably not going to get finished today. Hopefully the weather will be nice enough tomorrow that I can get it finished up and get this thing to be movable. Alright, welcome back. It is another day. I'm going to attempt to cut the inner tie rod in right about here-ish, because the tool that I need to remove that has to kind of go in there. And so I've got to remove the boot and all that stuff, pull it out, and then be able to replace it. But I'm going to try to cut it off with a recip saw. Let's see if this works. Well, it looks like it's going all right. Well, that worked. Yeah, got it done. I'm going to leave this together because what I want to do is, in a little while, loosen this jam nut up. I'm going to draw a line on there, and then we'll count the number of turns it takes to get that off of there. So that when we put the new tie rod end, we go about the same number of turns to try to get it as close as we can. But anyway, that worked out pretty well. Okay, so we're back. It is another day. I had to get a different tie rod tool. I had to get one of these ones here, and this one I got from my local Napa store because the inner tie rod for this particular vehicle does not have the flats that the one that I've got works on. And so what we're going to do here is break out this new one, and it's really pretty simple. It comes it's like a really kind of like a muffler clamp, and it opens up, slides over the end, tighten it down, and then this part here you have your 3/8 drive ratchet to go in there. I've got one of the 3/8 drive adapters, so I'm going to go to half drive. But anyway, let me go ahead and get this put on there. I'll show you what it looks like once I get it in there, and then we'll knock this thing loose. Okay, I got the old one out, and as you can see, that should be, well, there's the new one. Two of them side by side. That shouldn't be bent right there. So anyway, what I wound up having to do, let me try to explain this. I used the clamp to get it knocked loose, twisted it out, and then got to the point where I could use a pair of vice grips, grab the end of it and start twisting it out. Just made it a lot easier. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the new one. I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads right here. I'm going to screw it back in. I'm going to torque it down to about 40 foot-pounds or so, and that should be good. But it's really tight in there, so it's hard to see. Is what it is. But okay, let me get the other one put back in there, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, it is back in. It is torqued down to about 40 foot-pounds. I have not put any, but I'm going to put some grease, or pack some grease back in there before I put the boot back on. But I wanted to show you all that it is in. The tool here actually was helpful, but you have to loosen it and clock it, tighten it, loosen it, clock it, tighten it. It's just kind of not a fun thing to do. Anyway, I wanted to catch up on that. I'm going to go grab the grease, put some grease in there, put the boot back on, and then we'll revisit this here in just a minute. Alright, so I got the boot back on. I have a zip tie back there to hold that in place, but I'm not going to tighten it down until I make sure that I have the boot all the way on. And when I get this put back together, I have to replace the lower control arm, as you know. I'm going to go ahead and put the car up on the quick jack, and when I put it up in the quick jack to pull that off, then I'll be able to access it a little bit better, make sure the boot is seated where it needs to be, and then get that zip tie tightened down on there so that it's locked up and sealed up and all that good stuff. So anyway, what I'm going to do next is get the tie rod in, but I'm going to take the old one and count the number of revolutions that I take it off, and then I'm going to screw it back on that number of revolutions. But I have to put the jam nut back on first, and so we'll spin the jam nut all the way down to here, figure out how many times we got to turn the tie rod end on, and then once we do that, we'll go ahead and put it back together, and this will be temporary until we get the lower control arm changed out. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and tighten everything down, and that part of it will be done. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, so that wasn't so bad. I went ahead and snugged that down. It's not all the way tight. I did lock the jam nut in, and so it's all back together. It was 17 rotations, roughly, for this to get it somewhat lined up. It's going to be close. It's not going to be perfect, but once this is all said and done, we get a new wheel and tire and new tires on the front, because we're going to go ahead and replace both front tires because they're, you know, one was destroyed in the accident. You like to keep the same tires fresh on both axles, and so or at least on the same axle. And so that's what we're going to do. But at least this part of it's done. Now I can move it around and actually put this thing up on the quick jack to get underneath here, do that, finish tightening the zip tie up in there to hold that boot in place. But other than that, for this part of it and for this video, that's a wrap. We are done. All right, so like I said, that's it for this video. That's a wrap. Really, all in all, the most difficult part of it was getting the old inner tie rod out. That was kind of a pain. The access is really tight, as you can see in there. I don't think the camera quite does it justice. My hands are not that big, and there's not enough room for me to get my hands and my shoulders in here to do this. Now, had I put it up on the quick jack in the first place, it would have been a different story. Probably would have been a lot easier, or better yet, to put it up on the actual lift and do it there. But there's something else that's sitting on the lift right now, and that's another project for hopefully in the next few weeks we'll get that one done. But enough of that. For this one, could you do this yourself? Yes. I would think with this one, anybody with some mechanical ability and some tools, you may need to go out and get a few tools here and there, like the that ball joint tool or the inner tie rod end tool that I bought was at Napa was 30 bucks. You can get them at Harbor Freight for like 20 bucks. So the tools are available. They're not that expensive, and it doesn't take a whole lot to figure out what you're doing with them either. Most of us have a phone a friend anyway, and so from that respect, I'd give it a shot. Now, the accident damage and stuff, that's probably something that would be for someone who is a little bit more experienced, but we'll see. I mean, it's been a long time since I've done any of this stuff, and our plan is to see if we can source it at a local parts yard and then do it that way. If not, we'll buy remanufactured panels off the internet, and hopefully they'll work out okay. Other than that, that's it. That's a wrap for this video. Hey, everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching Yellow Jacket Garage. I'm over 1,000 subscribers. As of today, 1,030, 1,031. So thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching and interacting with my videos. And it's been a fun journey, and I look forward to a lot more of them. So anyway, thanks for being here. Have a great day. We'll see you on down the road.